Hey, everybody. This is your daily dose of all things royal. Hello again, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. I am bringing you this video because I'm serious as a heart attack. This facade really needs to end. So let's take a moment and talk about this guy that's sitting next to Prince Harry at the Katy Perry concert. His name is Ken Griffin, and he is an American hedge fund manager, entrepreneur, and investor. He is the CEO of Citadel LLC, which is a multinational hedge fund. He also owns Citadel Securities and is worth about $35 billion. So no one really knows why Ken Griffin showed up and met the group at this concert, but I have a theory. I think these two have a legitimate fear over Samantha's court case and are exploring every angle and option they possibly can find to get out of it. You see, this billionaire is a conservative Republican in Florida, of all states, who filed a lawsuit in December of 2022 in the Southern District of Florida against the IRS for violation of privacy. According to the court records, it states that the IRS mishandled his tax information and somehow it got leaked, and now he's suing the government. Anyhow, I find it quite coincidental that these two managed to be sitting next to this guy who is a conservative Republican, a party that Meghan and Harry do not identify with, but her sister does, and currently has a court case going on in the Middle District of Florida. So what I'm thinking is going on here, WME, or Rahm Emanuel, Ari's brother, helped get this guy to this concert, in my opinion. See, Ken Griffin was the biggest donor to his campaign for re-election as the mayor of Chicago. I believe the Katy Perry concert was a networking event for Harry and Meghan, and it was to establish this relationship, and probably sold it to this guy Ken as meeting with Prince Harry to talk about philanthropics for his Farswell Foundation, aka public charity. I could see on the back end in Meghan's head thinking, well, maybe this guy can help me find somebody that I can influence in this court case, whether it be to pay them off and get this court case dismissed, or figure out how to bribe this judge. Because this court case is not going anywhere, in my opinion. I think it has a solid ground at this moment, but you never know. It's things like this that happen in the background with these very powerful people where decisions are made and you're left scratching your head like, what the F happened here? Keep your eyes out, folks. You know, this relationship is not a normal relationship. Obviously, there's some purpose here to it. And the fact that he lives in Florida and is a Republican conservative and is working through the Florida court system, I don't know. To me, it seems kind of obvious what's going on here. I would not put it past Harry and Meghan to resort to bribery because there's a lot at stake if this moves forward. And that includes the bigger picture that I keep talking about. Which brings me to going back to talking about this from September of Harry and Meghan, or Harry trying to buy up the press. Now, this story that came out from the Telegraph talks about this not-for-profit coalition that Harry and Meghan are part of now called Press Forward. Perhaps maybe Harry was trying to recruit Ken Griffin at the Katy Perry concert to join this coalition for censorship. I mean, it's not technically considered censorship, but when we get into it, I'll show you exactly what is going on here. So what it feels like to me are the liberals are getting scared that they're no longer in control of the media. And Press Forward recently was set up in September 2023 to so-called revitalize local news outlets across the United States by pumping $500 million in grants over the next 5 years. What this is going to do, and they're saying that it's to preserve democracy. We know that that's bullshit. We know that they're going to try now to corral the little people like us, pump money in hopes to persuade, to push their propaganda out in order to influence. Now, why this is coming up now? Well, it's all about timing. What do we have coming up in 2024? The elections. I believe that they are terribly afraid All the donors have a stake in making sure that they can continue to keep controlling the media. You see, this Missouri versus Biden literally have exposed the mainstream media as liars, and the public now doesn't trust them. So, what are they doing? Oh, we're going to invest in the little people because we believe in democracy. When you look at these 5 bullet points, I mean, the first one in itself says it all. Prioritize transformation. We will invest in ideas that will have profound and lasting change in the American media landscape and its role in our society. We believe the sustainability of local news will depend on shifting newsroom practice, community support, philanthropic priorities, and policy frameworks to ensure all communities have access to trusted local news and civic information. You get that? Civic information. So, what we're seeing here is let's make sure that we get everybody rounded up, make sure that when we pump in our money, they're singing the same tune that we want in order to do whatever outcome they're looking for. And in this case, this is going to be a focus on the election, in my opinion. Anytime you see Archwell associated with anything, you know you can't trust it. And after looking through this website in depth, no, you can't. It's the same people who had been controlling the mainstream media now trying to control the little people, the local news groups. When you look at what's going to happen in 2024 on the electoral side, the path is clear to see how agenda driven local news outlets are designed to change elections, potentially going to alter the decision of America again. You have more and more people waking up to the fact that we're being lied to by the mainstream media and turning to independent journalism. This is a problem for the Democrats at the moment. What's so sinister about this is this statement: trust begins close to home. Like, I don't want these vultures coming to my community and controlling the media. The only way to describe the unsettling vibe I get from this is comparing it to a demented stranger offering a child a piece of candy to lure them. And that's what this feels like, very predatory on the people who really are just doing what they need to do to get the truth out there. No, thank you. Stranger danger. Do not trust. Losing control and people trusting in the media is a problem for the Democrats at the moment. Last year, they recognized all this and they spent tens of millions of dollars across the country backing a series of these innocuous sounding small news outlets like the Dogwood in order to help sway these key swing states. We're going to see the same thing happen again. We just need to be smarter and recognize when we hear all this flowery language. And, you know, a bonus, if we see Harry and Meghan tied to it, we know to stay far away from it and challenge it because we know exactly what they're doing. One, they're trying to control the narrative, and two, they're really trying to control our speech. And that's not a good thing. And it's not only just in pushing out the propaganda, but it's also now being pushed in our legislation by the very same people under the guise of keeping children safe. Look, Harry and Meghan don't give a shit about the children. They just want the control. Which brings me back to a couple things that I think a lot of us had glossed over, but I want to revisit it so you can see how serious they are about changing policy and putting laws into place to suppress people and control what they can and cannot do online. Make no mistake, Harry and Meghan have a lot of secrets. In fact, they have two very, very big secrets that they can't afford to come out, because I do believe the reason why they're so laser focused on it is because they know how damaging it's going to be. But they give themselves away every single time. Take a listen to what Megsy says here. And there's just going to be a few things that I'm going to point out that leads me to draw a conclusion, which I think everybody else is going to draw the same conclusion with me.
And as parents, so our kids are really young, 2.5 and 4.5.
Megsy says our kids are 2.5 and 4.5. This session was done on October 10th. How do you not know the age of your own child if you had children? Just asking that question. Technically, little Betty would not be 2.5 years old if she was born on June 4th. That's if she exists. If your child was 2 years and 3 months, you would never say that your child was 2.5 years old. You would say that the child was 2. That's one flag. Now watch this next clip.
Thank you. Megan, for you, just finally, it seems like to us, you guys have so much on your plate, and I wonder, just as a mom of 2 young kids, after the stories that we heard today from these families that you have gotten to know over the past year and the work that Archwell's doing in this space, like where is this now? This
I'm replaying this segment for you. Carson Daly's asking Megan about motherhood. As you can see, just look at her physical appearance. You start to see when Megan gets nervous or anxious, her neck and her chest start to get red. As you can see, her neck is starting to get red. Her ear is red. It's like almost as if she's breaking out into hives, and you can see that she was breathing slightly heavier. So you can tell that she was feeling a bit anxious over this question. Next, watch her start to pick her fingers. That's a clear sign of anxiety. So Megan, why are you so anxious talking about your children? If they are the love of your life, besides this one, then this should bring you joy to talk about.
social media as it pertains to the youth, your youth, your 2 kids' mental. Where is that now on a priority list? Not as a kick-ass woman, but as a mom.
Megan looks like she was ready to have a full-on panic attack, taking this deep breath and picking her fingers over talking about her kids. And look at her face right here. She looks terrified to talk about her supposed kids. Could it be maybe she's lying about that too?
Excuse my French.
Thank you. Being a mom is the most important thing in my entire life. And
Watch it again without the sound. Yeah, folks, I think she's lying. As you can see here, she's shaking her head no, and she's rapidly blinking, avoiding eye contact again. Nobody believes that this woman puts her children first, if they exist.
Thank you for that. I get this sense there's a palpable feeling in what we've heard today from seemingly the majority of people, parents, that are really frustrated. When Taj was talking about how it's difficult when you're parenting, when Mr. and Mrs. Smith down the street a few blocks, their parenting rules as it pertains to social media and devices, their goalpost is totally different than ours as a family. Between that, how can we become more of a collective and get on the same page? Maybe it's passing laws in this area. That idea, the idea that where's the accountability in all this? Where are the tech companies? Why are they not making it more difficult? Where are they helping out? And I wonder what your approach might be in the future to tackle some of these larger issues as parents just seem so frustrated.
Here's another major red flag that indicates to me that they're not with these children. Carson Daly asks the question, the latter part is, what are you doing as parents to essentially tackle this problem? Both of them sit there, and Megan allows Harry to go. This is the first time I've ever seen Megan say, no, you go ahead and talk about this. And then when you listen to Harry doesn't even talk about his children. He doesn't talk about being a father and, the things that he's doing with technology, whether it be using the iPad and allowing him to use it, but no internet access. I mean, you would think if you're spending time with your child, you would be saying, well, my child's not going to have a cell phone till, they are like 12 or 13. So, I'm not thinking about that yet, but we do have applications that they use on the iPad because I guarantee you that they give those kids iPads to keep them busy. They are the parents that are guilty of not wanting to invest the time to teach their children the safeties of online. They want to put it in the hands of someone else so they don't have to do it.
Well, first of all, I think there's a reason why there's no one else working in this space because of the size and the power of these companies. I think people are scared and feel helpless. I think we understand that. But there's nothing wrong with these kids. Any one of us in this room to grow up with social media would probably definitely react the same way. And I think we need to get out of this idea that the young kids, there's something wrong with them. It's the world that we're allowing to be created around them. So as the doctor says, we're already way behind actually solving the problem. But the one thing that always stands out for me is yes, these platforms are addictive. I think we all accept that and agree. But
I want you to listen very closely to what Harry says next.
as someone who works within those companies, as someone who works within those companies.
You heard it right there. Harry says, as someone who had worked within those companies, he's saying, I was in those tech companies. And then you'll hear what Megan has to say in a second.
This is someone who designs them, especially because obviously they're not going away, new ones are going to be created.
It's not their fault. And many of the platforms that we've had conversations quietly behind the scenes with these tech executives.
We've had conversations quietly behind the scenes with these tech executives.
Many of these conversations that we have had quietly behind the scenes with these tech executives. So here they are openly admitting that they have been working with these tech platforms. So when we look at their association with the Aspen Institute and the various people that are currently now getting sued for violating First Amendment rights, you better believe that these two were all up in the mix with this. This is why they are afraid of Samantha's case.
With these tech executives, and they do feel that they have created, and they have, many of them created, parental controls and certain guardrails.
Notice her neck and chest are starting to get red again.
It feels pretty overwhelming. So there has to be a better solution than that, of course. And I think equally, and every country has different guardrails on things like this.
Notice how selective Megan is with her words. She's using the term guardrails, which instead of saying legislation, because she knows that she is affecting that and it's wrong, guardrails are what's being put in place in all these Western countries. Now pay attention to what she says next.
We had insight sessions. We were just in Germany. We had one with parents there. My husband's done them in the UK.
Yes, you heard that, folks. My husband's done them in the UK. When has Harry been back to focus on doing this? I mean, of the times that he has hopped over the pond over to the UK was to the coronation, where he spent maybe 7 hours total, then flew back to California. Or how about going to court? Like, when did he have time to go spend with parents to talk about online harms and trying to make things better? I thought Harry had problems returning to the UK because he doesn't have a place to live and he doesn't feel that it's safe. And oh yeah, doesn't his PTSD or mental disability trigger him whenever he's flying into London? I'd like to understand, when did he go to the UK to focus on this? I don't know, could Megan be lying? Maybe. Or could this couple really be still dealing with the UK and we don't know about it in this censorship initiative? These two, among many others that they have been associating with, want to invade your privacy and also suppress your speech in order to control. Listen to what the Surgeon General says.
So the good news is there is a lot that we can do. And I say that explicitly because sometimes it can feel like this is just a huge wave that's washing over us and we're powerless in the face of it. From a policy perspective, though, we can establish safety standards the way Megan was referencing and that Tristan and others have talked about as well.
This is the first thing that comes out of the Surgeon General's mouth as a recommendation on how to make this better, and that's with policy regulation change.
These are safety standards that would reduce the likelihood that kids are exposed to harmful content.
Listen to how smooth this language is and the choice words that they use. Safety standards, meaning online safety bill, putting in rules about the data that they're collecting, what your kid can see, essentially making the choice for them instead of the parents. Now, this last point that he makes, I wished one of us was in the audience to stand up and call Megan out for the Sussex Squad.
Including bullying and harassment. It's concerning to me that 6 out of 10 girls say that they are harassed by someone on social media that they don't even know.
But again, it's the pushback is, well, you don't really understand. So how can we understand when you're not being transparent?
The point that Harry's pushing here is violating Americans' Fourth Amendment rights, which is your right to privacy. Essentially, he wants the data. In fact, this is what they all want, particularly the kids' data. They want to know how they can groom them to think a certain way and to vote a certain way. That's the biggest thing.
But there are also things that the companies need to do. Ideally, if they were doing what they needed to do, none of these things would be required, but they're not. They're not stepping up to do enough. I'm not saying they're not trying. Perhaps they're doing a little bit here and there, but the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is rotten. It's telling us that our kids are still struggling and they're suffering. And without being able to transparently share the data that tells us, here's what we are trying, here's the impact it's having on our children, here's what's working, here's what's not, it's hard to have full trust that enough is actually being done.
They make it very clear that they want the data. And he says it there, and putting the use of keeping children safe. This is exactly the same playbook that the UK used to pass that online safety bill.
The other thing that we can do with safety standards is also protect kids from exposure to the kind of tools and features that would manipulate them into excessive use. Now, this is a problem because social media is stealing time away from critical activities for a child's well-being, like sleep, like in-person interaction, like physical activity. And about a third of adolescents saying that they're staying up until midnight or later on school nights.
I think it's inappropriate that the government wants to dictate when your child should turn off their phone because of optimal sleep recommendations. Now, I understand that you need sleep and it will affect the function of the brain, but that's the parent's job to regulate their child's cell phone usage. Put rules into place where at 10 o'clock at night, the phones go into a safe and they're locked in till 7 a.m. the next day. Also, like, what did we do when we didn't have phones and there was television? Yes, television was off by like 10 p.m. and you had to be in bed. And the parents, if they were good parents, will go in and check on their child to make sure that they were sleeping. We cannot be taking out the responsibility of the parent to do their job and put it in the hands of the government, because that's a recipe for disaster.
When we were putting together our advisory, we spoke to experts from around the country who have studied this area, and in fact from other countries as well. They all had the same thing to say, which is that they cannot get transparent information from the companies. They get a little bit, not all of it. And as a parent, I don't want to feel like a company is hiding information from me about the product that my child is using.
No, I think the bigger problem for parents is the data that the government, as well as these companies, are collecting on your child. Now, there are laws being passed per state, like California just passed a law in which the state is being sued, and Archwell has attached itself onto it to fight for this collection of data of the kids and being able to push out what they think is appropriate material to your children. I am raising my hand to say this shit's got to stop. Anything that Harry and Meghan have touched, has a sinister agenda against it. These two don't care about making the world safer. They care about making money, and getting people's data is money. Parents, do you want your child's data in the hands of Harry and Meghan or the people like Harry and Meghan? No. You see how dangerous they are.
Around social media for his kids. So I think for us, for myself and my wife, again, with kids growing up in a digital age.
Did you guys catch that? It's almost like Harry caught himself when he was saying, my wife and I, us, and then the kids were an afterthought. That just shows me that either they're spending zero time with them or they really don't have these kids in their presence.
So I think for us, for myself and my wife, again, with kids growing up in a digital age.
Throughout this whole thing, you couldn't convince me that these two knew anything about parenting.
How do we fix that? And I think it will take all of us on so many different levels, from grassroots level, of course, probably to policy.
Meghan just outlined the Farswell public charity grift. This is what they are doing, and they are making it sound like they are doing the world a favor by helping save the children from all these online harms, when in actuality, this is all about impact investing and affecting their portfolio. Instead of pushing laws to censor the world and collect people's data to exploit and make money, how about we put regulations around these foundations and philanthropic activities that our taxpayer money is going towards? Then we'll see who's really helping these issues that we have going on. Honestly, here's what I see happening. I think Meghan and Harry have been done. And these public appearances that we're seeing is all for show. Harry no longer is under the grip of Meghan. Well, he is under the grip of Meghan when she literally grabs onto his hand and won't let go. But what we're starting to see is it's no longer affecting him. So, meaning conditioned to whenever she touches his back, he knows to come. And that's a result of him not being around her, which indicates to me that they have not been living together. They're not sleeping together. They don't see each other. This is all for show, just like what Charles and Diana did. And I think Ava Gardner made a great point in what we are seeing now. We're seeing Harry tolerate and put on the show and smile, but he has these moments where you see him directly go against her. Look at how obnoxious Meghan is in this clip. She won't even allow Harry to stop and talk to this person as she pulls him away, unaware that there's people talking to Harry. These two are definitely not on the same page anymore, and what we're witnessing is a relationship that is severely fractured. In this most recent BR stunt, Harry doesn't even look at Meghan, not even once. Well, actually, he does. And for a brief second, he flashes his contempt for Meghan, but he locks eyes with her and she gets the message. I think Meghan had grabbed his hand and that pissed him off because he was talking to this woman. And you can see that he flashes her this look of, I hate you. And she sees it. I've been saying this for a while now, but we're starting to see Harry break away. And when he's really happy, he's without Meghan. So we know that the dynamics are not the same anymore. Also, I do believe that the reason why we're not seeing an announcement to potentially a separation or divorce is because Meghan is at a standstill. Samantha's court case is going to cause a lot of problems for them. I don't think Meghan's going to want another legal situation, especially if she announces a divorce and then has to go through this with her sister. It could be very bad for her, especially if Harry turns on her. So I think right now we're not going to see anything pertaining to this couple aside from more attempts to pretend to be royal, to show the royal family, see what you missed out on. Hey, if you want to have us back, give me a call. It's always something with this couple, but at least they are helping us open our eyes to what's really going on because they have been so sloppy. But what do you guys think? Do you think there are some valid arguments here pointing in the direction that these two are really trying to cover something massive up, and this effort that they're putting into silencing the press is part of that? Definitely leave your thoughts below, and you know it, as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
It was such a fraud.